Hey, it's John Chen, and wow, this weekend my heart and life is full. I got to celebrate a 25th anniversary. For those who don't know, the company's gone from Playtime Incorporated to geo teaming to engaging virtual meetings. And here's just the short progression. These are things, a trip called The Journey that we did. All these leaders climbed Mount Rainier with me as a metaphor for achieving a big goal in their life. Then I had to change to GPS receivers. And then eventually, of course, came back here to running virtual meetings. Finally, because we've been looking at this thing for years to be able to run virtual meetings. And now people are, of course, suddenly interested. Speaking of running virtual meetings, this person is I love her tagline. She feels like she can change the world one conference at a time. She runs another place too called Never Been Done, and I have to do this year. I don't have to, but I'm excited. I have the opportunity to do this. You need to meet this person. Let's welcome the one and only Myriam Hadnes. What's up, Myriam? Myriam, you are definitely in one of my top dancers here on the interview.
And with this introduction, it just felt like I could walk down the kind of the.
You gotta walk on stage. That's right. This
Yes,
is
walk on stage. That's how I felt. Thank you.
Oh, Myriam, thank you so much. How are you doing? Well, see, well, of course, where are you calling in from today is a good question.
I'm calling in from Amsterdam, the Netherlands.
I have,
Lovely summer, sunny evening.
I have been to Amsterdam with my son of all places. You have apparently have I think it's an LGBTQ huge water festival where like DJ boats go cruising through the water.
Pride, yes. A week ago, maybe two.
And
An amazing festival. Yeah, it's just a celebration of tolerance and diversity and sex positivity.
oh, yeah, my son was like 18. We're on our way to Italy and we had to go through Amsterdam and so we had 24 hours, took a boat tour and got to see like I mean it's amazing. People are on the bridges, they're on the side of the roads, they're on these floating party boats having dance parties. It was quite a sight to see.
It's a perfect place to be with your 18-year-old son to have all sorts of conversations. I hope you did plan enough time for debrief.
Yeah, that's what the airplane is flight is for. Okay, speaking of which, Marion,
Speaking of which,
for my friends who don't know you, tell them who you are and what you do.
yes. The question of who I am is maybe the most difficult one. What I do is easier, and we just joked about it. When I thought, okay, who am I? And the easiest answer that I could come up with quite spontaneously before this call was, if Peter Pan and Pippi Longstockings had a child, this would be me.
Wow, your parents.
And let me explain that. I think that both of them have the talent to bring the playfulness into the space, to leverage group, to show up as natural leaders without being full of ego. They all put their friends first and help them to protect them against the bad guys. And they're incredibly creative to find solutions for literally everything. So for me, they are maybe natural facilitators. And that's what I do. I struggle to put the label facilitator on my forehead just because I don't like labels so much. And I think that many don't really understand what facilitation really means. For me, it's almost a philosophy. It's to get people together to bring forth the best of each of them.
Hmm.
And what I do is I host a podcast. Every week you'll be there soon. The Workshops Work podcast. So for 180 weeks, I've been on the mission to find the magic ingredients that make workshops work. And as a side project that happened because of the podcast and because of Corona, I built the Never Done Before community which celebrates the art and craft of our profession once per year at the festival. And you'll be there in November.
Thank you for inviting me. Well, there's so many great topics here. Uh, I want to start with facilitation and make sure and touch on never been done. You said facilitation is a philosophy to you. To me, facilitation, it really comes from its base word, which is to make easier, right? To make easier for others. So I'd love to hear a little more, like either what's your philosophy or what are some of those core beliefs about facilitation to you?
Mm. Where to start? I will start with I disagree that facilitators are there to make everything easy, unless we have to unpack what we mean by easy. So I think we learn best if we have small challenges. And I had an interview with a video game designer, Colleen Panier, and she gave the wonderful example that the joy of a golf play is to have this very long stick and to put the golf ball into the hole, right? So if we would just go there and pick up the golf ball and walk to the hole and put it there would be no fun and nobody would play that game, although it would be so much easier. Right? And so the facilitator is maybe the right golf club. So to make sure that the participant or the group has the right level and the right tools to interact with a specific problem so that they can find the solutions from within them. So for me, how to link it to the philosophy is the core belief for me as a facilitator is the belief that the answer is there already in the group. And it's my task to help the group to bring it forth. So to leverage the power of the group, basically. And facilitation means presence, means the inner game. I think I say one more thing and then I let you speak. I think the biggest misconception of facilitation, and I would love to hear your opinion on that, is that facilitators are there to design a sequence of activities that are fun, bring the team together, and hopefully solve a problem around the way. Whereas for me, the high art of facilitation has less to do with the activities that we are planning and more to do with our inner game, so that we can be present to the group and sense when it's time to put the agenda and all the activities that we have planned to the side and replace them with something that we have not planned but is more important to the group. And for me, that's facilitation.
Yes. Hold on a second. I gotta dig this up because I just went through a conference, somebody else's virtual conference, and they're saying is people over program, right? Like we use, of course, connection before content, which is very popular, but I love that they also added this people over program, and they had to do that, and so I do believe that that facilitators, one of their jobs is to sequence these items of things, right? The meeting design is something that I think that's really important because just to have a plan about what's going on, and great facilitators do that, and great facilitators know. Like kind of like that sand mandala, right? That somebody like builds and then you blow it away. There is a point sometimes that if it's not working, that you need the courage and the confidence to blow that
It's the
away.
plan.
Yeah, to not be it. And that happened in this program. So what they had was a really powerful three-person breakout room where everyone was supposed to rotate roles. And you got to ask a challenge or an issue, and then asked, somebody asked the questions, which is, what did your head say about this? What did your heart say about this? What does your gut say about this?
I love that.
And then what do your ancestors or guides or support, you could choose one, say about this? And it went long, but luckily she had created a text channel, and she said, if you want to text me updates, text me here. And I just let her know that, like, we're like, it was 10 minutes, and I think we're way, we're going to blow through schedule. I think she only scheduled like 5. But I said, we just finished person 1. I said, it's so slow, but so deep, right? And I'll keep
Mhm.
you up to date. And so, I kept her up to date, and that was a point where she admitted, she goes, I just want to made the facilitation here is that we had a big plan for today and that we threw it away because of listening to her. And for me personally, it was the best part of the retreat. And
Yeah.
it was the best part of the retreat for me specifically because I had not felt like I've gotten to connect on a deeper level with multiple people in the conference. And I said very happy, really connecting to these two people. Uh,
Yes.
yeah.
And I think for these things to happen, we have to be very clear on what the purpose is. So,
Yeah.
why are we bringing these people together in the first place? Because then we know, okay, if this happens, then we can ditch the plan. If that happens, maybe we don't, or we need to readjust. And it also shows that I think the facilitator, we often, or is often referred to the person in front of the room as if it was the center of attention. But the facilitator is really there, maybe in the back of the room, holding the space. I think the best facilitators are those who hold the space, and the participants don't even realize that they are being facilitated.
Well, one of my goals around this too is now, people say they don't want everyone to talk over each other and don't want to lose control of a meeting. Actually, that's one of my goals now. And the reason why is because when you lose control of a meeting, quote unquote, lose control, and everybody's talking at the same time, it's because they're all so engaged in the topic that they all want to talk at the same time and that they have energy and they're actually excited about it, right? And that's actually sometimes very hard to see now in virtual meetings now because we're so regimented to having one person talk all the time that you miss this part, like in an in-person meeting when something either controversial or passionate comes around that everybody talks at the same time, right?
Absolutely. With the only distinction I would make is everyone everyone? Or is everyone just those we're hearing? Because if everyone is 50%, because the other 50% are maybe think to speakers, introverts, who then feel overwhelmed and zone out, then it is something that might need more facilitation. And I think that this is a big distinction between virtual meetings and on-site meetings. So in an on-site meeting, you can have that. Everyone is speaking over each other and you have a lot of energy. And if someone still wants to say something but isn't that loud, they turn to their neighbor and they can still feel as if they are part of it because they can speak. They
Proximity.
use their vocal cords.
Yeah.
In a Zoom meeting, it doesn't happen. If I cannot turn to my partner, I just open another tab and I use not my vocal cords, but I send an email.
Or private chat or something else.
Oh, private chat. In the best case, a private chat. In the worst case, an email, and then I'm down the rabbit hole and I'm out.
It's funny that we just worked with a leadership team a couple months ago, and you could actually tell, like the leadership team, and then they asked me to come in and do a little team building work, and you could tell when somebody said something controversial, they ended up not talking about it. They ended up private messaging one person in the group.
What
And
does
so,
it say about the culture?
exactly. So what I did was, right, I actually went through an exercise where saying, hey, just do me a favor, like, pick somebody on the screen and private chat them, right? And I said, now you can only private chat them. And then I had them run a team building exercise.
Ooh. What was
And
your hypothesis of doing that?
what's that? Oh yeah. The number one is that they couldn't complete the team exercise, which was the point. I set them
Mhm.
up, right? I'm not gonna lie. I set them up, but the second part was really interesting too. And an unforeseen challenge and I'm pretty sure that I didn't have to fully debrief it, but one person was not picked by anybody, which I think would be really challenging.
Hmm.
Uh, and more importantly, was I ran the same exercise where now people could just use the vocal channel, and then they could instantly solve the challenge, and that was the real point. And the real point is why are not using the one important thing here in a virtual meeting, which is your audio, and more importantly, the solving of the challenge together as a group, and not it can't happen with one person at a time.
Yeah. And it's a wonderful, I mean, from this observation only, you can unpack that much and what it says and what are people afraid of. So where does the fear come from? What is the culture? And how to deal with that?
So I'd love to go backwards a little bit now into the Myriam time portal, and where did you create workshops that work, and or what did you do before that that led you to this passion around workshops?
In my previous life, I was an academic. So I left the ivory tower 5 years ago. So I did a PhD in behavioral economics, wrote my thesis about the impact of culture, including forced solidarity and supernatural beliefs in supernatural punishment in West Africa on economic decision making.
That's a light topic.
Yes. Very fun. My supervisor, anyway, that's a tangent. So I was working for universities, then I went into higher education strategy. So I was appointed the strategic advisor to the university president, which was on paper the best job ever. Because we had basically the mission to build the model research university of the 21st century, bottom up, including professors and students and lobbyists and ministers and everyone, with very few budget restrictions. Until, and there's a pivot point, politics kicked in, a change in the ministry, a change of priorities, the bottom-up strategy process, inclusivity wasn't that valued anymore. And I observed from maybe a little bit too close what happens to an organization if you first induce responsibility, collaboration, creativity, ideas, and then suddenly you remove it and you say, that was nice, and now we hire McKinsey to do the job.
Is that what happened?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something worse to giving a group something and taking it away than to never exposing them at all.
Good one. That's a good one. Yes. To the individual, yes. To the organization, maybe not, because I think it's a trauma that is created inside an organization that then, as much as inside the individual, that needs then healing. So for me, it was clearly the step outside, realizing that I want to work for organization to help them use the intrinsic knowledge and resources that they have to solve their own problems. Because I saw all the creativity, all the ideas, all the resources inside the university that we never expected that suddenly came up. And I thought, if we could quantify the missed potential in organizations by just neglecting what they have at their fingertips, that's crazy. So
yes.
And back then I didn't even know what a facilitator was. I never heard the word facilitation. So I left the job, came to Amsterdam to redesign my life. After almost a year, I realized that I was unemployable.
Say more about that. What were the factors that made you feel unemployable?
I think I was 33 back then,
Okay.
33 or 35 maybe. I was 35, and I've never worked in a corporate. I was working as an academic, and I always had bosses who would tell me, okay, that's the goal, and you're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I
Great.
could hire my own team. I never had someone to tell me what to do. So, at this age, with the title of strategic advisor to the university president, I think people in HR just thought that I made that up. I think they simply didn't believe me.
You could have fell into the chief of staff community, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of close to that. I don't know.
Yeah, it didn't fit into a box.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
think that's a beauty that many of us facilitators actually have in common, that we're all kind of free radicals. We don't really fit into boxes. We are very creative with a strong sense of community and creativity.
I love that you said free radical too, because that means we're taking bad stuff out, right?
We do, don't we?
We do, right? Okay, so you're saying you took a break, and that is this where workshops.work came out of that? Something.
Yeah, I went on when I realized that I was unemployable. Best strategy ever. I went for a 10-day silent meditation retreat. Okay, withdraw. Need a break. And in this meditation, I came up with the idea that I have to start my own thing, my own business. And in my mind, I called it idea days, that I would invite teams for full days to just create ideas, to create solutions for their problems. Later learned that this would be a mastermind. And then started to call myself through idea parties as meetups, found some colleagues, some people who would hire me as a facilitator, still didn't know the word. When I eventually learned that what I was doing was called facilitation, I got so enthusiastic about it and told everyone, I'm a facilitator. And they would go, you're what?
Yeah. Who's
And
it? You're a what's it?
what? Are you a consultant or a moderator? Are you a coach? And I'm like, no, a facilitator, facilitate workshops. Oh, workshops. Are people still doing that? And that was frustrating because I could see something that they clearly couldn't. So I started a podcast, Workshops Work, as a marketing tool to educate the world about what the role of a facilitator is and how great workshops can be if they work. So eventually I changed my company name from iDays into Workshops Work, just because it makes most sense.
That's what I love to tell people about entrepreneurship is that it's where your dream meets the world's pocketbook, right?
Yeah.
And so like you can fight all day long for iDays, but if like people go like workshops, well, at least I know what that is.
Yes. And I had to kill so many darlings. Oh gosh.
Now, I do want to add a piece to this, though. The secret to this was your 10-day silent retreat. And I was just talking with somebody, and she needs to create her first board retreat as an executive director. And she's kind of like got all these ideas running around. And then you got this two parts, too. I think, it's kind of the coming out party. So she's worried about what everyone's going to think of her as this new executive director, blah, blah, blah. And I believe one of the answers was to like go somewhere quiet and like be with yourself. And do you still use that to this date to like sometimes work on stuff?
Um, Less. I haven't gone since the pandemic, but maybe also with the lockdown, there was a lot of just silent retreat
Yeah,
at
it's
home.
it's a 2 year silent retreat. Yeah, I know.
And funny enough, I think so I went to 4 Vipassana retreats in total. So 4 times 10 days in silent with 10 hours of meditation per day. So it's, I think, one of the most extreme forms of meditation retreat that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And what I learned through that is that I do have all the answers inside myself already. all I need to do is to listen, to trust, and to make sense to bring them out. So to create a structure for them to really come out. And that's exactly what I do now with groups. So I come in, I trust that they have all the answers inside themselves already. And we don't have 10 days in silence with this group, but instead we hopefully have 10 hours, so a few hours of bringing out all these kind of resources, that the answers they have in themselves, so that they figure out what they need.
So I would love to talk to you about this, right? Which is the beliefs you have as a facilitator when you enter. So this is this holding space thing that I think a lot of people don't really understand, right?
Mhm.
And so some of it is presence, but I really actually believe. So what I have taught almost all my facilitators: you come in nervous, they become nervous. You come in angry,
Yes.
they're going to fight, right? If you come in calm and centered, right, they'll be calm and centered, right? If you can see, the future, or if you know the future exists, they will also know the future exists and perhaps then create it, right? So I'd love to hear your beliefs about what you need to either do or what you believe as a facilitator, walking into each one of your
Mm.
workshops.
Yes, what we need to do and what we need not to do, right?
Even that's sometimes even more important, right?
Yeah, the lazy facilitator. I think that's a high art. Um, I think we tend to, with our nervousness when we're newbies, we tend to over-engineer and to do too much, and then we infect the space. Yes, I 100% agree that our energy spills over to the group. And then there are very small things like how we are modeling, with how much space we take and how we reply to others. If I say yes and to lift them, or whether I ignore what they've said, whether I appreciate, acknowledge, which doesn't mean that I agree, but I acknowledge that what they've said and invite the group to reflect that. The way how I keep silence, asking a question and sitting there, trusting that someone in the group will break the silence, and having the confidence that it's okay. Someone will eventually speak up. And I think that's holding space, because I trust that the group knows and that someone will speak up, and someone will. So they can feel the trust. I trust them that they know the answer. They don't need my answer. And the last thing that comes to my mind is very often, and I had a conversation with with the recent podcast guest. I had the conversation about changing the process because suddenly we doubt. There's some exercise that I love to do, and especially in my early days, they invite the group to be quite vulnerable. And there are these moments where I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this with this group. And this translates into me not trusting the group. Ooh. And they will sense that. So the moment where I overcome this inner fear and this over-doubt, and I just go with it, the group will sense that I'm trusting them in that they're whatever, mature enough, open enough, good enough, whatever that means, to play with it, and they will. And if I start to back off and say, maybe we do something different, and if you want, you can do that, but if you don't want, you do something else, I bring so much stress and uncertainty to the group that I might risk the entire process with my uncertainty.
With your uncertainty. Yeah. Huh. Yeah. That's a good one too. So sometimes it's like if you chose not to do that, even if you like covered over it where people didn't know, like you didn't announce it. So they don't know, but they intuitively know. People know.
Yeah. Yeah. We feel that immediately. Yeah. If someone doesn't trust us, we can smell it. We even can smell it through the screen.
That's a good one too. I don't think people totally get that. How do you, as a facilitator, read a virtual audience?
Mm, good one. So I always have everyone on gallery mode. That's for me a default because I want to see them.
Mhm.
And then there are the obvious and the less obvious clues. I think the obvious is whether someone leans in and is really present and looks, um, or someone is lean backwards. And even that, sometimes if someone can lean backwards, even close the eyes, and you see that they're processing something, so they're still present.
They're more
And then,
present in some way, right? They're more present because,
yeah,
especially introverts, right? I had to learn from one of my introverted friends that this was actually him being totally engaged because he had a notebook down here and he was
mm,
graphic recording. And one time I asked him and he showed me and he's like, this is a beautiful graphic recording. I never bugged him after that. Like if his head was down, I'm like, that's cool. I know
that's a compliment, right? He's
yeah,
taking notes.
oh.
And I think there's, again, and that's why I think facilitation is about the inner game. So if I see all heads down or cameras off, then my inner voice is going like, oh, I'm not engaging enough, I'm not interesting enough, they are doing something else, and that's why they are having their camera off. It's all about me. Instead of thinking, oh, they're turning the camera off to save bandwidth because they don't want to miss a single word. Or they were so enthusiastic to join my meeting from the middle of the night that they didn't put makeup on or whatsoever, and that's why they have their camera off. Or they suffer from visual and sensual overload, so they want to fully immerse in my workshop, and that's why they have the camera off. And suddenly I can treat it in, so who am I to judge? And how do I let these clues that actually don't say anything about what's really going on affect me in my facilitation? One obvious clue, though, is, and I love to observe that, when different tabs go on and people start to multitask, and you see the reflection of the screen on their face or even in their on their glasses. So you can see if they are switching from a light screen to a dark screen, and suddenly you have all these reflections, and I say, okay, they're multitasking. Exactly. I see that in your face, right?
That's a good one. Yeah, glasses, especially the reflective glasses, especially like a ring light reflective glass and their main screen. That's the other key that I get
Yeah.
from that. And I don't know. One of my favorite techniques though is to you don't really call them out, but you call them out. And one of that, what I mean by that is like if Myriam pretends to space out, right? I'll just put something like her name inside of a sentence, right? I'd love to hear if you have another technique, which is like we're talking about this deep topic, about facilitation, and I know that Miriam would definitely have something to say about it because she's so passionate on it. Yeah, and so she'll come right back to center of screen. But I never called on you. I
Yeah.
just said your name in the middle of a sentence, right? And that,
that's,
that name is usually a cue,
that's very sneaky.
right? And yeah, that name is a cue
Yeah.
to saying I might ask you something, and so I might need to pay attention now.
And I think using the names of participants is a powerful tool in many different ways, either in the way that you just mentioned, or even to signal that it's time to stop speaking, just to let them pause.
Hmm.
John, thank you, John.
Yeah.
And
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
right? Instead of thank you, and then the person would continue, but as soon as you pronounce their name, something magic happens. They kind of, and then you can use this small pause.
To yeah move to move
Close. Yeah,
on, and that's part
yeah,
of facilitators too, is to not let somebody overrun a meeting or command the meeting just by talking through the whole pieces. These are all the I love this is like all the art, and there's an art and a science,
yes,
right?
yes,
Like this equality of time thing is something that you have to always as a facilitator look at. Like if you break that social contract and let somebody overrun the meeting, or that you never let somebody talk, right?
yeah,
I think these are all like killers. Like somebody raises their hand and you never call on them. That
yeah,
like those are all things that they would break to me social contract. These are things breaking down psychological safety where people will
absolutely.
stop feeling safe in a meeting and stop fully participating.
Exactly. Because for me, An engaging meeting is when I feel seen and heard and I have a voice, whatever, I can contribute with my voice, whether this is written voice, present voice, but I'm seen and I feel heard. And I don't have to wear a mask. So if I can be my authentic self, then it's engaging because I don't feel judged, right? And everyone loves to show their true selves. I think that's something that almost every human being has in common.
Okay, I just thought I'd wear a mask for a minute. No, I agree too, which is that I mean, everyone comes with a mask when they first start because they just don't, if they don't know the group.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the job as a facilitator is saying, can we do that? I get that's authenticity, vulnerability are things now that I think are super important and doesn't take any additional technology.
Yes.
To make these things happen, and it does take a trained leader of the meeting, like a host or a facilitator, to demonstrate them, bring those out, and allow people to do it.
Exactly, because you need to demonstrate it. I think you cannot expect anyone to feel safe if you don't feel safe yourself. So for me, if I feel safe, I'm authentic. If I'm authentic, the group will feel permission to be authentic. So I think that's another piece where maturity comes in and the modeling, that I need to know what my facilitation style is and how I want to show up with the group. If I come in to play a role, to be someone that I'm not, how can I expect them not to play a role or to feel safe? Because they don't understand who I am and what my hidden agenda is.
I think there's that other part too, which is like if you're a facilitator and you try to play the style of another facilitator that is not yours, you'll get busted pretty quick too. Right? Like if you're not the fun and joyful person naturally and you try and emulate somebody else.
Oh yeah.
Right? I mean, there's a very thin line between, right, that was fun and that was hokey.
Yes, yes. And then in German, we have a word that's called Fremdscham, is feeling ashamed on behalf of someone else.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right? Where you have the silence that is just so loud because everyone feels awkward, like, oops.
Awkward. Yeah. And virtual has led to more and more awkward moments. I do want to touch on this. I love what you said, though. Take a risk, right? I think you're never been done, especially in facilitation, too. I would love to hear what the basis of your conference Never Been Done is and was. Like, how was that created?
Okay, fun fact, it's called Never Done Before.
Oh, sorry.
And because I'm not a mother tongue speaker, and it started as a working title. And since all the mother tongue speakers say never been done, I bought neverdonebindone.org as well. So I put a redirect there. So we're covered. How it was born, I came back from yet another conference that was promised to be state-of-the-art facilitation, new tools, new methods, great community. And I came home like, been there, done that. When is it that I eventually really meet the new cutting edge state-of-the-art facilitation? Or maybe there isn't anything. Maybe everything has been done already and I know it all, but I was fairly new to facilitation. So I called my my podcast guests back then and asked them whether they would join me on an experiment hosting a conference that we would call a festival. And the only condition for them to host a workshop is that they have to do something they've never done before. And the beautiful side effect, so everyone was hell yes, because we all have these ideas, that these under the shower ideas. Oh, how would it be if in a workshop we wouldn't speak at all? 90 minutes of total silence. Can we still kind of collaborate? Right? How can you ever test that? You cannot sell that to a client. You cannot suggest to a client, oh, I had this random thought. Let's do it. So we all have these kind of crazy ideas that we would like to try out. And what I realized after the first festival that we hosted is it created a magic experience of humility and trust, because we lean into the space where we take the risk of doing something for the first time, although we are experts. So we are stepping on stage in front of people, and they are peers, so they are other experts who are about to judge our performance in our workshop for something that we have actually never tested before. And to be in this space together creates a curiosity, levels or reduces the level of authority. So we're amongst equals, and we're there to learn and to observe. And from this festival, it now turned into a community where we constantly do stuff we've never done before and realize there's always something we've never done before. And we're constantly on this meta level where everyone learns, but nobody teaches. And I stopped.
You should use that.
In the beginning, I was quite judgmental, I must say. So I was like the mother or the bouncer of this community. And I sat in some workshops, I'm like, you cannot do this, and wanted to interfere. And then in the debrief, I heard from all the other participants how much they learned and how life-changing this was. And then I realized, okay, who the fuck am I to judge everyone? I can just trust that everyone stepping into the space will learn exactly what they need to learn. And if not, they can leave.
I love that the Zoom's new automated captioner was able to bleep you out in the captions. By the way, in our karaoke, we actually carry a board, and it's a whiteboard. And if you drop F-bombs or other words, we actually keep track of the number. And there's some people who have gotten to like 20 and 30. It's genius. I love that. Everybody learns, but nobody teaches. And now you're giving me ideas because I got to think about what I'm actually going to do. And I think I have some other radical ideas that I haven't yet tried. So I'm going to bring those to you. Yeah, neverdonebefore.org. I put the link in the chat for some people. Go check it out. And of course, watch my social media if you want to see when my thingamajig is going to come up. It's coming up soon. Let's ask this question then to Myriam. You're a deep thinker. You got some academia on you. I got to do my own thing on you, right? What do you think the future of virtual is, right? Virtual, got advanced 7 years in the last 2 years. It's curious right now. In some places, virtual is dying because the in-person is returning. And I think I'm pretty convinced, and so are many others, that virtual, for the most part, will not go away and is an important, critical piece to many organizations. So where are you, and where do you see virtual going into the future?
I think we haven't even started to explore all the magic of virtual. I stopped doing on-site because I think we can go deeper and be more human together virtual. I think it's more democratic because the Zoom gods treat everyone the same. So the Zoom gods don't care with whom you're going to be thrown into a breakout room and nobody listens.
Maybe it's a Zoom goddesses. Maybe it's a woman there who's really in control of all the bits.
Oh, yeah, for me, a god is gender neutral, non-binary god.
Hey God, that's right.
My first research paper for my PhD was called "The Gods Are Watching You."
Oh.
Yeah. Side note. And where is virtual taking us? So I think it will stay with us and maybe be even more integrated. I wouldn't be surprised that in the future we might even sit in the same room together, still behind our screens, even if it's just to use the same whiteboard where the sticky notes don't fall off the screen and where we can go back to the meeting room independent of where we are and who got the keys. And I wonder, and we haven't even started to explore virtual reality. And I think that's another different layer that is yet to come, that I think once we started experiencing it, we even don't want to go back to on-site just because the virtual world will be so nice and safe and deep.
Deep. I mean,
And then we'll meet we'll meet for drinks and for hugs on site, because that's when it counts. I think for all the work, conferences to happen on site, I think it's just an excuse for the booze. I think for all the rest, we can even do it better online. But let's have a drink, let's share food and share a hug on site.
the booze is even better too, because you can buy your own booze. For those who do drink and for those who don't drink, right? You can choose the beverage and actually not have the social and society pressure of like you're supposed to.
And not blame the conference organizer for being cheap.
Yeah, you blame yourself. I'm with you on this. The virtual reality is what I'm calling looking for its killer app. And what I mean by that is like in networking, right? Email was like the killer app, right? Networking by itself, the internet browsing and email were like two super killer apps that people gravitated to. And this is like a little bit like your company name, right? You want it to be, like, what is it, iDays. And the world never grabbed on that. But Workshop, like they could grab onto that. And I think that VR, I do think that some form of meeting might be virtual reality's killer app. Right now, some of it is just games. Some of it is building spaces for some people. But there's a lot more to come in there. And there's just the speed of innovation and pace is going to be rapid there.
And I think especially in a world of overwhelm, I mean, almost everyone nowadays is overwhelmed just by the central overload and information overload. If we can be in a meeting and be fully there because nothing else just can catch our attention, that's beautiful. I think we'll have less meetings. They will be shorter because people are listening. People don't answer their emails in between. Because the outcome of a bad meeting are more meetings, right? And that's scientifically proven. So if we can catch our attendees' attention and not force them to, but engage them, make it easy. In this case, yes, facilitating, making it easy to be engaged in a meeting, but just shutting all the stuff off. I think it will be very beneficial for everyone.
That's a great feature request, because in VR too, like someone is already touting like you can have, you can have an infinite number of video screens in front of you. And maybe that's not the right thing. Yeah, so you look at it, maybe we need to design like there's a place in VR, because you can have anything where you say that somebody else cannot open another window, right? Like you just need to be with the people there. And so even, like even in an in-person meeting, people use their cell phones to check out of a meeting. But imagine that if that was taken away. I mean, this is kind of akin to why you take retreats that are off the grid. Because you are removing temptations, and now, maybe VR is another place where you could do that. I'll be curious to see where all those innovations are. But that's why I'm on it. That's why I'm looking at it and trying to figure out how can I integrate just even a small piece of my daily part, just so I could see what it's like and meet some of the other people. There are definitely some people who are way ahead, but it's also a very small number of people because like the rest of the world is not there yet.
And the world became so small.
Yeah.
Everyone is literally just a click away. Silver lining of the pandemic.
And the last piece is that facilitating in VR and virtual reality will be the next step of like, how do you do that effectively?
Yes.
Because I think that it will be different than here, right?
Absolutely.
Than on video or Zoom.
Already facilitating in a space like Velo or Topia, or facilitating in a virtual reality, even without the glasses, but not seeing the video of the avatars.
Yeah.
Each of those requires different facilitation skills.
Well, I
That's
look forward to that. Maybe one day that will definitely be the never done before. Somebody's got to do a never done before in VR session. It's probably already been done, maybe once.
not yet. Will happen. I'm waiting for the year where almost everything will be VR.
That would be,
I
yeah, the year of VR. That would just for people to really try and do that. That would be fascinating. All right, Miriam, where can people find you? If someone wanted to find you, where would they find you at?
Workshops.work. I think that's the easiest to remember. Otherwise, on LinkedIn, I'm an open book. Invite me to connect. Would love to connect. Always looking for new inspiration to geek out with facilitators. And yeah.
Thank you, Miriam. And the last word, part two. If people only remembered one thing from this interview, what would you want that one thing to be?
We can change the world one workshop at a time.
Oh, genius! Right? Tell them again, and for crying out loud, tell them. Right? I'm with you on that. Change one workshop at a time. Make all your virtual meetings engaging. Uh, do it better. That's the call that I really have right now to most people. It's like it's 2 years now. You have the basis of this, but I still think too. I still feel very strongly that bad meeting design was here prior to the pandemic, and bad meeting design just gets amplified on virtual.
Yes. Yes. I think everything got amplified on virtual.
And so therefore, if you are still having right challenging bad virtual meetings, then find people like Miriam who can replace that and get people engaged again and do real work and do meaningful work and more importantly, do deep work. Right?
Show up. Yes. And maybe even that's the one thing. If I had one message, just dare to show up. And then the rest will follow.
Excellent. Thank you so much too for showing up, Miriam. I appreciate you, and I can't look. I really look forward because I'm pushing the boundaries already in my head to try and figure out what I'm going to try and present to you and your community. So, thank you, Miriam. There we go.
Thank you.
Wait, let's do the last dance together. Baron's great, one of the greatest dancers of all time. All right, thank you so much. My name is John Chen. This is my 25th year of being in business, of meeting amazing people like Myriam. Make sure and check it out. Well, I got my own conference too coming up October 18th through the 22nd. Grab a free ticket or pay for the VIP. We really suggest the VIP. You will be here in the front row with Zoom, being able to interact with over 12 of the top virtual speakers in the world. Until next time, we'll see you. Thanks again, Myriam.
Thank you.
Going star people and keep